This happened last month. I had just moved to the city for a new job and was trying to adjust to my new life. I was a marketing consultant, excited but a little nervous. I was 32 years old, living alone in a small apartment. The bus stop I waited at was on the edge of an industrial area. It was surrounded by old advertisements and flickering streetlights. It felt wrong, especially when I stood there late at night. The humming of machines in the distance mixed with the heavy silence around me. I still can't shake what happened there. I remember that night clearly. I was scrolling through my phone, checking emails. The bus was late, nothing unusual. I looked around. Suddenly, I noticed something. A figure stood in the shadows across the street. I thought it was a trick of the light. I squinted. It didn't move. I dismissed it as my imagination. But it came back. Every night, around the same time, it was there. Just standing, watching. I felt uneasy. I told myself I was being silly, yet I couldn't get rid of the feeling. Maybe it was just my new surroundings. Each time I waited, I felt the hair on my neck stand up. My heart raced each time it appeared. I felt something was definitely wrong. In the days that followed, strange things began to happen. The bus delays got longer. Sometimes I felt like someone was behind me, even when I was alone. I couldn't shake that feeling. One evening, my coworker Jenna said she had seen odd things in the same area. She used words like creepy and unsettling. It felt good to know I wasn't going mad, but it also added to my fear. One night, I glanced up from my phone. The figure was back, standing there in the shadows. This time, I could make out some of its features. My breath caught in my throat. It seemed to shift slightly. I didn't know what to do. I stood frozen. I wanted to call out, but the words wouldn't come. Then it happened. I asked if it was okay. My voice sounded shaky. There was only silence. That stillness felt heavy. I could feel a cold sweat creeping down my back. My heart was pounding in my chest. Just as quickly as it appeared, it stepped back into the shadows. Was it really just a trick of my mind? Every night since, the figure has haunted my thoughts. I tell myself it was nothing. Maybe my anxiety was getting the better of me. But I wonder what else is out there, watching me. Each time I wait for the bus, I feel the lingering presence. Then one night, I heard a whisper so chilling that it froze me in place. "Why do you keep coming back?" it asked. I spun around. No one was there. I stood alone over the dim streetlight, heart racing. I had no answers. All I had was darkness. The next evening, I approached the bus stop with a knot in my stomach. I was tired of feeling like prey, but I couldn't let it win. I clutched my phone like a lifeline. I thought it might help to keep me grounded, to provide some distraction from the unease that settled in my chest.
As the minutes dragged on, I paced the sidewalk, glancing around nervously. The air felt thick, like the city was holding its breath. I looked up at the flickering streetlight, convinced it gave off a weak, ominous glow. I heard the sound of machinery in the distance, but also something else, an echo of footsteps. I turned quickly, but there was no one there. The figure was still in my mind. I didn't know what it wanted. Thoughts spiraled as I tried to shake off the fear. Was I just imagining it? Had Jenna's words seeped into my subconscious, feeding my anxiety? Just as I started to convince myself I'd blown everything out of proportion, I heard it again. "Why do you keep coming back?" The whisper broke through the silence. It was softer this time, almost playful. A shiver ran down my spine. It felt like the voice was wrapping around me, squeezing my chest tighter. I looked over my shoulder, half expected the figure to step out, but the street remained empty. My heart raced. I stepped back, uncertain. This wasn't just my mind playing tricks anymore. I was being called out. I took a deep breath and forced myself to confront what was happening. "What do you want?" I said into the night, my voice stronger than I felt. Silence answered me. Just a deep, consuming silence. I waited. Seconds ticked by, stretching into a minute. There was nothing, just the quiet hum of the city. Then I saw it, a flicker of movement to my left. I turned, and there it was, the figure, stepping out of the shadows. It wasn't just a shadow anymore. I could see it clearly. It was tall, and its features were indistinct, blurred like a malfunctioning TV screen. Something about its presence felt heavy, unnatural. It didn't step closer, but it didn't retreat either. It simply stood there, watching me. I wasn't just frightened. I was enthralled. What did it want? My feet felt glued to the pavement. Faced with this eerie spectacle, my instinct to flee battled with a strange pull to stay. The figure tilted its head slightly. My pulse thundered in my ears, drowning out everything else. I took a cautious step forward, curiosity outweighing caution. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice shaky. And then it raised an arm, pointing towards the street beyond. My heart sank. I felt a creeping dread wash over me. I had to follow its gaze. That's when I saw it. An old, rusty bus was creeping down the road, rattling as it came closer. Each clatter felt like a warning. The figure seemed to grow more defined, its intensity sharpening. But as the bus pulled up to the stop, the figure vanished back into the shadows, leaving nothing but darkness and my racing thoughts. I climbed on the bus, feeling watched the entire time. But the air inside was stale, thick with a lingering shadow of the unknown. Who was I going to meet on this bus, and what had the figure wanted me to see? I sat down in a worn vinyl seat, clutching my phone tightly.
The driver gave me a nod and then turned back to the road, eyes fixed ahead. The bus lurched forward, pulling me deeper into the night. The flickering streetlights outside cast quick flashes of shadow across my hands. I peered out the window, hoping to see something familiar. My heart still raced from the encounter with the figure. Who was it? Why had it pointed to the bus? I couldn't shake the feeling I was being led somewhere I didn't want to go. The bus rumbled along, and the few other passengers were silent. A woman 2 seats up stared blankly ahead, her expression unreadable. A man with a baseball cap sat near the back, tapping a rhythm on his thigh. I found my mind racing again, trying to push away the tension pooling in my stomach. After a few stops, I noticed the route took a turn into unfamiliar territory. The streetlights were spaced further apart, smaller, flickering more violently. I glanced around. Everyone stayed still, but the atmosphere felt heavier with each passing block. "What are you doing here?" It was the voice again, clear and sharp, but it wasn't coming from inside my head. I turned, heart racing, scanning the bus. My breath quickened as I noticed the woman in front of me had turned, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made the hairs on my neck stand on end. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She smiled slightly, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her tone low. "It's dangerous." I wanted to ask her why, but before I could gather my thoughts, the bus hit a bump and the lights flickered, plunging us briefly into darkness. My heart stopped. When the lights returned, the woman was gone. The seat next to me was empty. Confusion swept over me. Where had she gone? The driver's voice came over the intercom, distorted. "Next stop, the end of the line." Panic surged through me. I scrambled to my feet. "Wait, I need to get off." But the door remained shut as the bus rolled onward. I looked out the window again, despair creeping in. The outside world was an empty stretch of road, bordered by thick, dark trees, looming like silent sentinels. As we rolled to a stop, something caught my eye. In the distance, near the trees, a shadow moved. It was quick, darting between the trunks. I blinked, and it was gone. The sudden realization hit me hard. I was alone. I was trapped on this bus with nowhere to go, and that figure, that voice had led me here. I took a breath, feeling my heart pound wildly. "What now?" I whispered, feet planted but my thoughts racing. Outside, a rustling sound drew my attention again, and I felt a deep, chilling certainty. Whatever it was coming for me. Everything went black. I came to with a jolt. My eyes blinked open, adjusting to the dim light. I was still on the bus, but everything felt different.
The seats were the same. The driver was still behind the wheel, but the air around me crackled with something I couldn't place. I looked around. The bus was now empty. The woman, the man, even the driver vanished. Panic surged again as I realized I was alone. Just me and the shadows creeping in the corners of the vehicle. I stood up slowly, every sound amplified in the stillness. I reached for the exit, my fingers trembling as I pressed the button. Nothing happened. I slammed my palm against the door, but it remained shut tight. I tried again, shouting, "Let me out!" All I got back was the echo of my own voice and the sound of my heart thumping in my chest. Through the windshield, the world had changed. Night had fully settled in. The trees loomed larger, and in the distance, the moon shone through wispy clouds, illuminating an eerie path. I leaned closer to the glass, my breath fogging up the cold surface. That shadow I had seen earlier, it wasn't just in my imagination. I could feel it now, lurking just beyond the trees. A flash of movement drew my attention to the side mirror. Something was out there. I squinted harder, and then I saw it, a figure darting among the trees. It wasn't human, not completely. The shape was wrong, twisting in a way that made my skin crawl. I stepped back, startled. "What do you want?" I whispered, though I knew it wouldn't answer. A chill swept through the bus, and a flicker of doubt crossed my mind. Why had I gotten on this bus? Had there been a choice? Was I led here for a reason? That voice returned, cutting through the silence. "You have to listen." It was softer now, more of a whisper than a command. "They're coming." I shrank back into my seat, gripping the edge as fear washed over me like a cold wave. Who was they? The figure, more shadows lurking in the dark. The air thickened with an instinct to run, but there was nowhere to run to. Suddenly, the bus lurched, and the lights flickered. At that moment, the door unlocked with a loud click. My heart raced. I knew I should leap out, but something inside held me back. The voice had warned me. Then I heard it, a rustling sound from outside, growing closer. I stared at the door, my body frozen in place. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but the haunting question echoed louder. What awaited me out there? Just as I gathered the courage to move, the figure reappeared at the edge of my vision. It was no longer hiding. It stepped into the light, eyes glinting, and as the weight of its gaze locked onto mine, I realized what I had to do. I opened the door and stepped into the unknown. The moment I stepped off the bus, the chill of the night wrapped around me like a shroud. I turned back to look at the bus, but its interior was blenched in darkness. No glow of lights, no sign of life, just the driver's seat sitting empty like it had never been occupied at all. I swallowed hard and glanced around.
The trees stood like sentinels, their branches clawing at the sky. Fog settled at ground level, swirling like it had a mind of its own. I could feel it. Something was watching me. My heart raced as I took a hesitant step forward, away from the safety of the bus. The figure was still there, lingering just beyond the trees. Its shape twisted in and out of sight, darting like a shadow playing games. I squinted, trying to discern its features, but it was too dark. Was it even real? Maybe my mind was messing with me, trying to cope with the fear coursing through my veins. I took another step, driven by a mix of dread and a strange curiosity. The whisper echoed in my head again. "They're coming." I shivered, suddenly aware that I wasn't alone. That voice felt close, as if it were right beside me. Had I really asked for this? Then I heard it. Footsteps. Not just in my mind this time, real crunching sounds on the leaves behind me. I whirled around. The bus sat there ominously, its doors gaping wide. Should I go back, or should I venture forward? The figure caught my attention again, moving with a speed that almost defied nature. "Hey!" I shouted, my voice breaking the eerie silence. "What do you want?" I took another step towards the trees, but my legs felt heavy with fear. It felt like the ground was pulling me back. That's when the rustling changed. A deeper sound, a low growl echoed through the night. I froze. My instincts screamed at me to run, to hide somewhere safe, but the numbing fear kept me rooted to the spot. I searched the shadows, desperate for a hint of what was coming. The figure blinked into sight again, closer this time. Its eyes glowed faintly, not with menace, but with something akin to recognition. For a brief, terrifying moment, I thought it might speak. Part of me longed for it, hoping to find some kind of understanding. But that deep growl burst forth again, louder now, shaking me from my thoughts. Then everything shifted. I felt the ground tremble beneath me, and the distant howl of wind echoed through the trees. It was almost as if nature itself was reacting, preparing for something. I stepped back, and in that movement, I caught sight of something behind the figure. A flash of light, a small object reflecting the moonlight. It glimmered and vanished just as quickly, swallowed by the shadows. My heart raced, a new wave of intrigue washing away some fear. Was that a sign? Before I could process what I'd seen, the figure lunged forward, and I instinctively turned to run. Each beat of my heart echoed in my ears, urging me faster. But as I ran, the forest around me responded, branches closing in, hiding the path. That's when the whisper returned, louder and urgent. "You cannot escape. They are here." The chase had begun. I sprinted through the forest, my breath hitching with each pounding footfall. The whispering voice took root in my mind, growing louder as I fled. "They are here." Who were they? I didn't have time to think, but my feet moved on instinct, dodging branches and roots that reached out like hands trying to pull me back. A sudden chill swept through the air, and I hesitated, glancing over my shoulder. The figure had stopped chasing me. It loomed at the edge of the trees, shrouded in shadow, yet unmistakably watching. Its eyes burned bright against the blackness, piercing through the fog.
I stumbled on a tree root, almost falling, but I caught myself just in time, my pulse racing. The growling sound faded, replaced by the rustle of leaves, and I realized the forest was alive. It felt like something unseen was shifting, moving along with me. I squinted through the mist, desperate to find any path I could trust. Somewhere among the trees, I thought I had seen a flicker of light again, not the same as before, but calling out like a beacon. Against the overwhelming urge to continue running, I hesitated. Curiosity tugged at me as I turned back toward the light. It was faint but distinct, glimmering just a few yards ahead. I couldn't fight it. Something definitely felt off, but a part of me needed to know more. Slowly I crept closer, my heart pounding in my chest. I was certain the figure was no longer in sight. I was alone, or at least I hoped. The light pulsed softly, like a heartbeat, and I reached out to touch it. Just as my fingers brushed against the surface, everything around me shifted again. The light flared up, illuminating the area and revealing a small, smooth stone glowing in hues of blue and green. I grasped it tightly, shocked by the warmth radiating from it. Whatever this was, it felt alive in my palm. But why? What was its purpose? Suddenly, a low crack echoed through the trees, snapping me out of my thoughts. The figure was back, and this time it was moving closer. I could sense its presence, a heavy weight in the air. It was no longer a shadow. It had form. I felt a surge of fear, but I couldn't just stand there, not after what I had just found. I turned to flee again, the stone still clutched in my hand. The forest felt vaster than before, my escape path more complicated. The figure's glow trailed behind me like a specter. I had no idea how long I could keep this up. The whisper returned, more frantic now. You have to choose, fight or hide. I bolted towards a thicket that looked slightly less dense. Just as I squeezed through, I heard the growl again, this time furious and desperate. My heart raced as I barely made it past the branches. The figure lunged, and I felt a rush of air as it swiped at the space where I had been just moments before. I stumbled forward. That's when I saw it. A cabin, old and decrepit, half hidden by overgrown bushes. Perhaps it could offer a momentary reprieve. But as I reached the door and pushed it open, something cold washed over me, and the dread returned tenfold. I didn't know what was inside, but I was out of options.
I stepped inside, closing the door behind me with a soft click, and turned around. The cabin was dark and musty, the air thick with mildew and decay. I could barely see my hand in front of my face, my heart pounding like a drum. I shivered as I glanced back at the door, seeking comfort in the thin barrier between me and whatever was outside. The stone in my hand pulsed gently, its warmth contrasting the chill around me. I took a tentative step forward, careful not to trip over the scattered debris. My pulse quickened with every creak of the old floorboards. I felt exposed, like a deer caught in headlights, waiting for the hunter's arrow to strike. I forced myself to move deeper into the cabin, my breath coming in quick, shallow bursts. To my left, I spotted a window. I rushed over and peered through the grime-covered glass. A patch of moonlight broke through the trees outside, illuminating a small clearing. I couldn't see the figure, but that didn't mean it wasn't out there, lurking in the shadows. I turned back, scanning the room for something to defend myself with. The cabin had seen better days. Its walls were lined with peeling wallpaper, and the furniture was either broken or too heavy to move. In one corner, I noticed an old axe resting against the wall. I felt a strange pull toward it, as if it were waiting for me. As I approached, the stone in my hand began to vibrate, sending a jolt of energy through me. Against my better judgment, I placed it on a dusty table. Its glow illuminated the axe, and for a moment I thought I could hear the whispers again, urging me to pick it up. Desperation shot through me. If I was going to survive, I needed to be ready for a fight. The moment my fingers wrapped around the axe handle, a loud thud echoed from the door behind me. I froze, my breath hitching in my throat. Someone was trying to get in. The wood creaked under the pressure, and I instinctively tightened my grip on the weapon. Then the whispering returned, clearer this time. Betrayer, escape, now. Before I could think, I rushed to the front window and threw it open. A cloud of night air rushed in, but it barely masked the growing sense of dread. I looked back at the door just as it splintered and burst open. My heart sank. The figure stood in the doorway, illuminated by the faint glow of the stone. It was no longer just a shadow. It was a tangible menace. I knew I had to act, but the path forward was unclear. Should I fight? Should I flee? The figure stepped forward, and I felt the energy shift in the room, a dark pressure weighing down on me. It pointed directly at me, its eyes glowing fiercely. The whispers screamed in my head, "Choose, choose now." With a surge of adrenaline, I lunged through the window, the axe still in hand, not knowing what awaited me outside. I landed hard on the ground and scrambled to my feet, cold air stinging my skin as I prepared to face whatever horrors had followed. And somewhere behind me, the whispers faded into a chilling silence. The ground was uneven beneath my feet. I stumbled as I pushed myself upright, the axe heavy in my hand. The moon hung low, casting long shadows that flickered and danced in the trees. Every rustle of leaves made me jump. I took a deep breath and steadied myself. I had to figure out my next move. The figure inside the cabin had to be linked to the whispers, and I needed answers. With no time to waste, I edged toward the tree line. The cabin loomed behind me, dark and silent. I could still feel the weight of its presence. I crept into the woods, each step cautious. The air was thick with tension, as if the trees were holding their breath. I could hear nothing but the pounding of my heart. I glanced back, half expecting to see the figure emerge, but it remained hidden in the shadows. Turning my attention forward, I focused on the stone still glowing with a faint luminescence in my pocket. It had guided me before, whispering warnings and urging me to escape. I wondered what else it held. Curiosity twisted in my gut. It was almost as if I could sense it humming, feeding off my fear and determination. A sudden crack echoed nearby. I paused, straining to listen. My body went rigid as I caught the faint sound of footsteps approaching. I had to move. I needed to find a place to hide or confront this new threat. I ducked behind a large tree trunk, holding my breath as the footsteps grew closer. Through the gaps in the branches, I caught sight of a figure, a silhouette blending into the darkness. It seemed to be searching for something, darting its gaze left and right, as if expecting me to leap out at any moment. I tightened my grip on the axe, ready for a confrontation. My heart raced, each beat a drum in the stillness. Suddenly, the figure turned and faced me, and a gasp escaped my lips. It was not the shambling creature I had encountered before. This one looked almost human, with features obscured by a hood. It took a cautious step forward. I could see the faint glint of something metallic in its hand. Before I could decide to run or fight, it spoke. "You shouldn't have run. It can sense you now." The voice was low, almost soothing, but there was an urgency in the words that sent chill down my spine. "Who are you?" I stammered, trying to keep the fear out of my voice. "I'm here to help you, but we need to move quickly. It's coming for you." It gestured deeper into the woods, a path illuminated by the faint glow of the stone in my pocket. I hesitated. Could I trust this stranger? But I realized I didn't have much choice. Behind me, the shadows seemed to swirl and twist as if alive, and the figure from the cabin was still out there. As I glanced back toward the path the stranger had indicated, something with glowing eyes blinked in the distance. Then a low growl filled the air, and it was closer than ever before. It was time to make a choice. I took a step toward the stranger.
"Okay, lead the way." Just then, a terrible scream reverberated through the forest, and the figure's eyes widened. "Move! Now!" With my heart in my throat, I dashed into the darkness, not knowing what horrors awaited us. Branches snagged at my clothes as I sprinted through the underbrush. The stranger led the way, their dark silhouette weaving between the trees, moving with a speed I struggled to match. I could hear the growl behind us intensifying, like the rumble of thunder ready to burst. "Keep up!" they called over their shoulder, urgency lacing their tone. I focused on their feet, trying to mimic their movements, but every step felt labored with fear. I felt the stone in my pocket pulsing, urging me forward, as if it knew more than I did. We reached a small clearing, moonlight spilling onto the ground like a spilled bucket of paint. "This way!" The stranger pointed to a dense thicket. I could hear the growl now, much closer, a menacing sound that made my insides clench. I didn't need to think twice. I threw myself into the thicket. The branches snapped back at me, scratching my arms, but I pressed on. Behind us, the growl morphed into a terrible howl, echoing through the trees. We had to be close. Whatever creature was chasing us had a powerful voice. I glanced back for a moment, catching a glimpse of a shadow sweeping through the clearing. It was massive, a dark shape blending into the night. "Stay silent," the stranger whispered, crouching close to the ground. I mimicked them, my breath hitching in my throat. The world quieted, except for the distant sound of leaves rustling, and a heartbeat I realized was my own. We waited, the tension coiling in my muscles. A shadow passed over us, a dark shape sniffing the air. I wanted to scream, to run, but the stranger placed a hand on my shoulder, calming me. "It's searching," they whispered, eyes wide. "It can't see us if we stay still." Time stretched as I held my breath, watching the creature move closer. Its eyes glowed faintly, piercing through the darkness as it scanned the area. I felt lightheaded from the lack of air. Just as I thought it might find us, the growl shifted into a snarl, and it turned, bounding away into the depths of the woods. I let out a shaky exhale. "It's gone," the stranger murmured, standing slowly. I followed suit, still trembling. "What was that thing?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady.
Something far worse than you can imagine, they replied, their gaze scanning the thicket. But we don't have time to dwell on it. We need to move before it comes back with its pack. I swallowed hard, the sting of adrenaline still in my nose. What pack? Creatures like that don't hunt alone, they said curtly. They travel in groups, and if it caught our scent, they'll be close behind. The height of my fear mingled with something else, an unsettling curiosity. Why are you helping me? I asked, almost afraid of the answer. The stranger hesitated.
Because you have something it wants. That stone, it gives off energy. It's a beacon. I staggered back slightly, the realization sinking in. The stone wasn't just a guide, it was a target. Then a noise shattered the silence, a rustling from the direction we had come, followed by multiple growls. My heart dropped. We need to run again, I said, panic rising. Yes, follow me, they said, already moving. As we fled deeper into the woods, adrenaline surged again, but dread took root in my gut. I had no idea where we were going, or what fate lay ahead. Just when I thought I could regain my breath, the ground shifted beneath us, a trapdoor, the forest floor giving way. That's when everything went dark. When I came to, the air was thick with dampness. I blinked, trying to process my surroundings. I was in a narrow, dimly lit underground tunnel, the earth pressing in around me. I could hear a distant echo, the growls of the creatures fading above. The stranger was beside me, looking equally disoriented. "Is everyone okay?" I croaked, my voice hoarse and uncertain. My heart was still racing, pounding like a war drum in my chest. "Just keep moving," the stranger replied, urgency back in their tone. "They'll follow the scent down here." I stiffened but didn't argue. We sprinted through the tunnel, the cool earth pressing in around us, the light source only a few flickering bulbs suspended from the ceiling. The sound of our footsteps echoed strangely, mixing with the distant sounds of rustling above. After what felt like an eternity, we reached a wider section where the tunnel branched off into a series of paths. "Which way?" I panted, panic rising as I looked back toward the entrance. I felt it, for a moment, that oppressive weight of unseen eyes closing in again. "Left," the stranger shouted, grabbing my arm and pulling me in that direction. I followed, feeling inexplicably tethered to them in this darkness. We dashed down the left path, the sound of our breaths heavy in the narrow space. Why is this happening?" I managed to gasp between inhalations. "What was that creature?" "That was a hunter," they said, glancing back nervously. "They're drawn to certain energies, fear especially. The more afraid you are, the more potent the signal it detects." I felt a rush of anger mixed with dread. "So it's my fault? It's my energy? This is insane!" "It doesn't work like that," the stranger shot back, but there was a hint of sympathy in their voice. "The stone is a focus of energy, raw and powerful. They can sense it even now, and they will come for it." It suddenly made sense. The glowing stone had drawn me into this nightmare. "I can't let them have it," I replied, desperation tinging my words. "Then we need to find a way out, fast," they urged, turning sharply around a bend. I followed, my mind racing. Questions swirled. Were the creatures just drawn to the stone, or was there more at play here?
The tunnel narrowed again, and I felt the burdens of claustrophobia creeping in as we pressed deeper, the light flickering ominously ahead. Just as I thought we might escape this nightmare, a rumble echoed behind us, drawing nearer. The creatures surged through the passage, their growls now beneath us, reverberating off the walls. "Run!" the stranger shouted, propelling us forward. I didn't think, I just followed the thrum of their voice. We didn't stop until we reached a door at the end of another tunnel, marked with strange symbols carved into the wood. I raised my hand to knock, but the stranger hesitated. "Wait," they said, eyes narrowing. "I need you to listen closely." "Listen? Are you crazy?" I could hear the growls behind us, the distance closing. "We don't have time." "Just trust me," they insisted, urgency lacing their voice. "We have to know what we're dealing with first." Their gaze fell to the stone in my hand, glowing faintly. "Are you ready?" I didn't know how to answer. A million fears clamored in my head, but as the growls approached, clarity washed over me. I had no choice. I nodded, and they continued. "This door leads to a place between worlds. Some might call it a sanctuary. The stone may be a key, but you have to trust its energy. Let it guide you." "Guide me?" I nearly laughed in disbelief, but the growls echoed closer. "How do I do that?" "Focus, clear your mind, let the energy lead you." Before I could respond, the door creaked open on its own. We stepped through, and a wave of heat hit me, growing brighter and brighter until everything around us turned to brilliant light. And I jolted awake. Just like that, it was over. I was back at the bus stop, the flickering streetlights illuminating the industrial area around me. Confusion and disbelief crashed over me.
I remained seated on the bench, the echoes of my heart pounding in my ears. Had it all truly happened? People moved about, unaware of my experience. The bus hadn't come, but the stone, where was it? I checked my pockets frantically, and it wasn't there. Had it all been a dream? Just then, a bus approached, clattering and rumbling. As the doors opened, I felt a chill creep down my spine. There was something familiar about the passenger filling the back seat, someone who looked just like my stranger from the woods. They caught my gaze and offered a knowing smile before the doors closed, the bus rattling away into the night. I sat there in silence, my heart racing, the weight of unanswered questions heavy on my shoulders. Part of me wanted to chase after them, while another part felt an odd mix of relief and dread. I stayed at the bus stop a little longer, surrounded by shadows and flickering lights. I still don't know if I'll ever really escape that night, or what really happened, but sometimes I catch glimpses of shadows out of the corner of my eye, and I can't help but wonder,